Imagine one half of the Misfits of Real Estate show. Mark, I hope, is having a fantastic trip. Today, we actually have a very special guest on, Mr. Matt Teifke, owner of Teifke Real Estate down in Austin, Texas. He's running a little bit behind, so I'm just going to uh, riff and vibe a little bit before he comes on. I've actually had Matt as a guest on my show, the Go Big Live Real Estate Investors podcast. And on my show, we actually talked about his background, basically from childhood to where he is right now, and also how he did his first big, larger commercial real estate deal. So if you're interested in learning more about Matt, definitely check that out. Matt's got a really diverse background in brokerage, in investment development. And what really struck me about Matt was that he's actually, his company is very different. Actually, backing up a little bit, the reason why Mark and I heard about Matt is because a friend of mine that just moved into the area, I just became friends with him recently, but it feels like I've been friends with him forever. Nick Torpy, who's a real estate broker in the area, came from Austin and actually worked under Matt with his brokerage firm, and was like, you have to talk to this guy. He's absolutely amazing. And I've talked to other agents that Matt works at that works under Teifke Real Estate, and they say the same exact thing. Teifke Real Estate is a little bit different in that they are a brokerage that that basically wants their agents to get financially independent. All right, not a lot of brokerage companies do this in terms of, if you're not interested in buying real estate and growing your portfolio, then you're really not a great fit for Matt's company. So he is really, really passionate about helping build those agents up and their net worth and their financial independence. And that's really different because I just did a training, a couple weeks ago. I went into Keller Williams Gateway office. I did a training. It was real estate investing for agents. It was kind of a crash course, about an hour long training or so. And what inspired me to really design that training or develop that training was because I used to be a real estate agent myself. And I remember distinctly this one moment that happened to me that shook me. And in our MLS, we have our multiple listing service. We have announcements that happen, and they have these things called in memoriams, which is basically the latest realtor that died. There was a lady that was a friend of mine at the North Pittsford office when I started there in 2006. That was climbing over a snowbank, putting up a open house sign 2 weeks prior to her passing. And a lot of real estate agents actually have to work until they die, because one of the things that we're trained on by our colleagues, right or wrong, is to minimize the amount of income that you claim that you make to the IRS, to minimize your self-employment tax you have to pay, which is which I believe is actually 11%. Might still be 11%. I haven't paid it in a while. So, and what ends up happening is when you are actually reducing that income to the IRS, you're actually shooting yourself in the foot as to what you can claim in Social Security when you do retire. And a lot of agents actually spend most of their life actually playing catch up and not putting a lot of money into their retirement fund, not putting a lot of money, obviously, into Social Security. So a lot of agents actually have to end up working till they die. And I can tell you, as a former recovering real estate agent, the business was not for me. It is a grind, especially these days. And it's not a lifestyle that I wanted to live. And I just don't think is sustainable. I think the people that are out there that have been doing it for like 30, 40 years are a little bit crazy to be so passionate about what they do. And God bless them for doing that. But if it's a means to an end in terms of being your own boss, when you're a real estate agent, all you really own is your job. And the moment that you stop producing is when you don't make any money. So it's important to diversify your income streams and acquire cash flowing real estate to build your wealth in the process. So I hope that was inspirational. The training that I did, it is actually on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. So definitely check it out. If you are in fact a real estate agent or even a real estate broker, the training is about, how to, 1 hour is not a lot of time. All right. So it's actually going to take quite a bit of time to actually, in terms of educating yourself, but at least it will give you some starting points in terms of how to start educating yourself and just the fundamentals around the business, because I believe that real estate it's the oldest business on earth, and it is the one business that is tangible, and it's my dad used to call it the idiot's business, because the margins of error are so wide, and for people like myself that were like C plus, B minus students, going through school, I definitely was not a genius by any stretch of the imagination. I wasn't going to be a software developer or, be some sort of quant on Wall Street, working for, Morgan Stanley or Bear Stearns or whatever. I wasn't, very academically inclined and not that smart. So real estate really appealed to me in that, because it was basic arithmetic. I could look down the street. Okay, what are these apartments renting for? What are these single family homes renting for? Or what does this retail square footage rent for on a price per square foot basis? And be able to just build simple business models off of that. And it really worked for me, and allowed me to declare my financial independence when I was 33 years old, and I'm 40 years old now. So I've been financially independent for that long, really being able to not do like my dad did. My dad worked up until the day he died, literally, as a real estate agent. And so now I'm able to spend time with my family. I'm able to not. I remember when I was a real estate agent, I used to get commission breath when around springtime actually was when it would happen, because a lot of times people think that you're going to be financially struggling as a real estate agent during the winter months. But no, that's not the case. What ends up happening is the closings you had, the gross commission incomes that you earned over a contract, get paid during the winter based upon the work you did in the fall. So that springtime frame is when things get really, really tough from a cash flow standpoint if you're a real estate agent. But anyways, just riffing on that a little bit. But we had just a little bit more about Matt. Matt is actually the deal that we talked about on my show is actually a mobile home park that him and his partners acquired. And they were able to acquire that mobile home park based upon a piece of land that they were able to get under contract and sell that contract for a profit or an assignment fee, and be able to roll those profits to buy that mobile home park and then some. So we're definitely going to touch on that a little bit as well. Hey man, how you doing?
Good, brother. How are you?
Good to see you again. I've been riffing the past like 7 minutes. So the thing with this LinkedIn Live thing is that if you don't hit the live button at like exactly 2:00, then it doesn't pick it up. So hopefully I didn't lose anybody in the process. But how you doing, man? What's
good, man? We're back. We're bringing the energy back. Good job riffing. I know that's a challenge. I'm good, man. And I'm sorry that I'm late. I was fitting some things in, and I don't ever get to meet doctors. And he said, "You want to meet this doctor?" And I was trying not to leave too early, but you know how it goes. And I'm glad to be here, man.
Okay. Well, did you make some money or what?
Yeah. Not immediately, but in the long run.
Hey man, I like to look at my relationships as like bank accounts, right? So everybody believes that it's better to deposit more into your bank account than it is to withdraw. All right. I believe the same thing about relationships. And a lot of times it's going to be a long time with those deposits getting accumulated interest over time in those relationships before you even see a withdrawal or financial thing. But if you're working with the right people and you got an alignment of values and goals and a clear understanding of each other, then it's always been it's turned into magic in my life. I don't know about you.
Yeah, that's what it is. I'm a big believer that real estate's not about dollars and rents. It's about people. And I don't know. I've been trying to think through this one. I do like it on the surface, but give me your opinion. Mm-hmm. I was listening to Mike Tyson on Grant Cardone yesterday at his event, mm-hmm. and Tyson's going off about you only need to have people in your life that serve you, mm-hmm. and that bring value. And I'm like, it sounds a little harsh, but at the same time, it's like, don't you want to do that for other people that you're in their life as well? Mm-hmm. And I mean, it goes all the way to family. It's like, are these people helping you? Are you helping them? Mm-hmm. And the reason I don't like is it sounds kind of transactional, but if I remove that, I'm like, yeah, that's how it should be. Like we should all just be helping each other. Mm-hmm. That people that are in your life, mm-hmm. right? And if you're gonna go meet with someone, you're spending time with it, you're now in their life, and like do your best to serve them.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that I've thought about before because I get this question sometimes where, if you're about giving value, depositing positive stuff into the universe without any expectation of anything in return, and this is a lot, people based, right? How do you know like the right people to like add value to? And that's something that that I've always like struggled with. And I was like, I don't know, I've kind of been one of those things like I don't want to be God and try to like, judge that at face value. I'm just gonna, lead with giving value first. And a lot of times those people that end up being takers, like I just give them so much value that they're like, damn, I feel bad about this. I feel like I'm like stealing from a store, that sort of thing. So, and they just end up going away.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's happened to you in your life, but I think that that's like, something that, that's worked for me because, yes, I've had people that have taken advantage of, my time and generosity and that sort of thing. I mean, yes, it's happened a lot, but it's never something that's like been like this, like sort of like cancerous type of, intermingling and that sort of thing. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, back to people, right? It's like, how are you approaching it? How are you thinking about things? And I think of it as in a godly sense of like everyone you're meeting, you're supposed to be meeting with them. And so
Mhm.
quit trying to, force something and I'm always thinking, how can I be better? And how can I listen better? How can I have a better meeting? And then you just enjoy the process and where I think I want to be financially, right? Like, let's say I do want to be a billionaire, right?
Mhm.
I'm sure we all do. But that's going to take me 50 years, right?
Mhm.
And so like, what am I just going to like wait to get there and then I'm happy? No, it's like, you got to just enjoy this ride. You got to think that everything happens for a reason. Do the best you can, constantly be better. And I'm not trying to preach to anyone. I'm just talking to myself essentially.
Mhm.
But I really like, I'll go do a speech and I get off and I'm like, dude, like, how did I do? Like I'm not here to like uh hear praise. Like give me the negative stuff. I really want to hear like what I could have done that was better. And
Mhm.
I just constantly think that way. But same with adding value to people and like, you know, it's easy. She's a doctor. That's exciting. They got money. But it's easy to go meet with someone and like a lot I can bring value in a real estate sense to most people,
Mhm.
at least some kind of insight. And if she's sitting there and she has no money, and I'm sitting there like, oh, what am I doing here? Then I'm not really tapping into the things that I'm telling you right now. Like it's not about that. It's like there's something I'm supposed to be doing here right now, and that's
Mhm.
the seed. I like the deposit in the bank account concept. And you just like, how could I have done that better or more efficient? The
Mhm.
challenge that I have is the follow up because you could follow up with everybody and you'll get value out of it, right? Like if I stayed more in touch with you, I'd get more value out of it, and vice versa.
Mhm.
But that's hard to do when you talk to a massive amount of people. And
Mhm.
so I'm almost on the mindset of like the follow up just naturally happens. Like you don't have to really think about it. You're just going to be following up with the things that are actually moving forward with you.
Mhm. Yeah, in regard to follow up, I mean, one of the things that has actually helped me is when I get the idea in my head to follow up with somebody, I just do it right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna wait till I'm back to the office and I have like everything like in front of me and like, perfect and that sort of thing, and I formulate what I'm gonna talk about." The more like the magic words that I've always had is like, "I thought of you." Leading with a conversation like that. Because I mean, it's a with I don't know, do you remember what was that? Oh yeah, how old are you, by the way?
33.
33. Okay. Have you ever seen the movie Poltergeist?
I have not. No.
Okay. Okay. All right. So Poltergeist, I think it's a 3 movie series, right? And I think the first one is like it's like out in the country. It's a horror movie. All right. It's out in the country. There's like, and it's scary because it feels isolating. And then the third one is like Poltergeist, this horror movie that's in the city, right? And both things actually have like a like isolation factor to them because like you're in a city, no, like nobody knows your name. Your neighbor could live next door to you for like 5 years and like not even know your kids' names or your name or what you do for a living or anything like that. And I think that isolation is always something that is, is prevalent throughout everybody's life in terms of feeling lonely, especially for people that are, entrepreneurial or own businesses and that sort of thing. So I think that if you call somebody just apropos of nothing, like with no intention in mind, just saying I thought of you is just like always worked really, really well for me. I think we lost Matt for a little bit. So I think we're to talk more about Poltergeist and 80s horror movies right now. So okay. You back with me?
Yeah, I was trying to share it on LinkedIn. Keep going. Thought of you. I'm with you.
Yeah. So I guess like, I don't know, does that happen to you in terms of, I think that like you and I are kind of kindred spirits with each other in terms of like, we feel on something and then we act on it. I mean, am I characterizing that in terms of your like sort of persona?
Yeah, for sure, man. And it's like frustrations from failing at that probably that makes us even better at it. I mean, my
Mhm.
wife will be like, "Well, like I wonder if we should talk to this person." I'm like, "Do it right now." Because I just I won't remember it, I think. And but yet we have a million things going on. But yeah, it happens and there's some kind of connection out there in a spiritual world. And I was thinking about this guy Renee 2 days ago, and he called me today, and I was like, "Dude, I was just thinking about you."
Mhm.
And I guess he was thinking about me probably at the same time or after. And like, you just gotta do your best to embrace it, man. And like I don't know. I mean, I've gone through some hardcore things financially, um, and we all have. We all go through ups and downs, and we're all gonna, I think, experience like highs and lows, and we got to kind of recreate ourselves. And I was liking that about Tyson,
Mhm.
because the dude was the best, and then he went bankrupt, and now he's back. And I was thinking about it, like we all probably go through that in some sense.
Mhm.
But that's the key is like you gotta get that momentum back. And I'm feeling like I went through some really hardcore financial things with some stocks.
Mhm.
I went heavy into cannabis, marijuana stocks.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I'm still in them when they're like doing great, right? But like still
Uh-huh.
way down. But I'm like it put me in this lull where I was because I thought I was gonna like lose everything. And in going through that, you realize that it doesn't matter anyways. Like I'm like, man, I got my kids, my wife, like we're all
Mhm.
good. I'm not doing things that she's unaware of. We took a gamble together. And
Mhm.
but I'm like reinvigorated now because it's kind of turned around, but more so um, not because of the price, but like I feel like I just kind of got through a phase.
Mhm.
And we're closing some big deals, big real estate deals. And I'm I'm having a shift of mind of like we just closed a $7 million RV park,
Mhm.
and it's class A, it's concrete, it's palm trees, like it's a beautiful park. And my partner Alex is like, dude, we just need to do these things. We need to do more of these. And where I'm like looking at this 36 unit in Corpus Christi, and we can make money on it.
Mhm.
Uh, but when I really even now with this mindset shift, I'm like, man, I could buy that thing for like 500,000, and it's probably worth 3 times that amount of money. But they're still like limited. I'm saying like in theory, like I can't actually do that, but it's still limited. Like
Mhm.
it can only be so much where like I'm like being like, all right, we do, I've always liked having this creative niche of like assets that kind of get overlooked,
Mhm.
but it's hard to scale that, I guess.
It is. It's like, it's, I don't know. I've been in that territory before. I mean, especially when I was a director of operations for a national real estate development company, and the owners that I worked for were basically like extremely opportunistic. Different markets, different asset classes, and that sort of thing. And I remember working there, and I had to learn all the different businesses. My background was in multifamily, right? So I had to learn medical office buildings, different types of leases, like modified gross and triple net, and reverse squashing of the deck chair leases, like all this other like crap, right? And it felt like my brain was getting scrambled in terms of like, okay, am I wearing my mobile home park hat on today, or am I wearing my full service government office building like lease hat on
Yeah.
today?
Okay.
Um,
I'm following. I mean that
yeah.
keep
So
going
that
'cause that sounds like the challenge.
Yeah, so I think now I'll say that company's no longer around anymore that I worked for. um, the guy, he like lost his house and all that stuff. I mean, it's like it was terrible. But the one thing is that the one thing the book actually like changed my life on this. Like I read that actually after I worked on that, and it's like it kind of goes into the Pareto principle of the 20% of the stuff that you focus on drives 80% of the results. So defining that niche that you're really, really good at, and really drilling on it. And then there's also 20% of the 20%, right? And I think it's like Archimedes said, like, give me a lever long enough and put me with a good fulcrum and I can move the world. And so that's really the leverage of time in terms of being able to drill down on that one thing and focusing on that one thing to really just move mountains. And so that's like the importance of like the focus factor on it. But I imagine you've heard of Warren Buffett before, right?
Yeah.
So his mentor was a guy by the name of Benjamin Graham.
Yep.
And Benjamin Graham wrote the
investor.
Exactly. Yep. And Benjamin Graham was like, he was basically father of value investing. And this guy would like go through, all these stocks. He owned like thousands of different positions in stocks and researched every single one of them and that sort of thing. And Warren really kind of watched this and realized that wasn't scalable. By the way, Benjamin Graham is not didn't die a multi-billionaire. Actually, I think he died with pretty modest wealth, right? It was only until Warren Buffett met Charlie Munger was when like gasoline got put on the fire in terms of, Charlie's philosophy was like diversification is for dummies. Like you want to find like, put all your eggs in one basket and watch that basket. And I've passed over many opportunities that I've just given to other people because it just was not in my it just wasn't in my purview focus. And listen, like, dude, when you see what those other people did with those deals and like the amount of, value they created and wealth they created in the process, like, yeah, it does make me jealous. And it's like, damn, I could have done that. But then I was like, dude, I need to focus on like what I'm doing right now, because if I'm keep like going down deeper and deeper and deeper into this like really niche channel, that I can get that really, really powerful lever that can move the world. And that's like what I'm focused on.
I feel you, bro. And, I'll just to dive in on the cannabis stuff. I mean, like I was trying to follow like a lot of these principles. Like one of the things I believe Warren Buffett was saying was like, pick an industry that has a lot of opportunity and pick the best company in that industry and don't look at it for 10 years. Right. And like, I really am a big cannabis guy. I think marijuana should be legal. It's pretty clear that it is going to be legal, but it's a matter of time. And I invested over $4 million in a company called Canopy Growth. And Canopy Growth got a $4 billion investment from Constellation Brands, which owns Corona. And so I'm like, yeah, they're going to be around. Right. And I do believe that they still will. And it's, I have 1 million shares of this company called Acreage, which is tied to Canopy. But like, dude, it's like a case study of like, they basically lost $4 billion. Like, I don't even know how that's possible, but they don't have the money anymore. They're still probably one of the leaders for sure. In my opinion, the leader. But it was like, I followed a lot of those things. It's like, invest in what you believe and like hold the course and like, you're young, take a risk. And I wasn't diversifying, right? Like I don't even really like stocks, but it's the only way that I could get into cannabis in a way like that I was aware of. I mean, you can invest in private companies, but that's even more risky with way some of these people do cannabis. And so I still believe in it, and I took the risk. And I guess my point was like, I wonder, you that's why you can't ever give up, and you got to keep pushing and keep fighting and battling. But like for every billionaire out there, Bezos or whoever these guys, like they had those moments where they almost lost it too, right? They almost lost everything. But there's a lot of people that we don't know who they are because they just did lose, right? And like I could have sold everything and lost, and maybe it goes to zero and I still lose. But there's like that, there's some that make it and some that don't, and ultimately you can't even be too tied to it regardless, right? But like there's probably a lot of people that I mean, I'm living in Corpus Christi, and I was like reading a plaque, and it was like, this guy saw the vision of the city and he moved out here, and it's a beautiful city, and it's on the water. And it's like ultimately he went bankrupt. And you're like, dang man, like this guy had this vision and this dream, and it's here now.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like 50 years too early, and like I might be like that with cannabis. I mean, that was the thing that I underestimated was the politics of things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it might take 20 years for it to legalize.
Yeah, that's like a few different points here. Like I'll go on the first one you just like at the last one you just mentioned here was the like getting paved over in terms of this thing you're trying to create a value. There's this guy William Zeckendorf, which is actually a really great book. It's a short read. It's the autobiography of William Zeckendorf. This guy, when he was a real estate developer, right? Like built the United Nations in New York City, like as a developer. I mean, huge freaking deals. He built Denver, Colorado. Like he started developing in Colorado when Colorado was like farmland. Like it was like honky tonk the Ville there, right? And what he built there in terms of building up like Denver, Colorado, like all of his stuff is just paved over, right? And there's this like one little like tiny like park that's called Zeckendorf Park. And you go around Denver asking like, yeah, have you heard of like William Zeckendorf? And they're like, no, never. Like doesn't ring a bell. Sounds like a funny name, you know? So, but going back on the Constellation Brands thing, you and I have this one thing in common, right? So I bought our company, David Martin and I bought a few buildings right around where Constellation Brands is relocating their world headquarters in downtown.
Wow. Wow.
So we had like some insider information on on this investment. It's like an $87 million redevelopment project, and they are going to create the case study for, I think for corporations across the United States as to what you have to do to bring employees back into the office. Because right now, post-COVID, like everybody's working from home. Nobody in their company, I think 30% of the people in their company actually want to go back in the office. So they're making this thing that's like basically like an amusement park, for the building to attract their people back to work in downtown Rochester. So I definitely,
cool.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. We'll see if it works out or not. I mean, we may like end up losing our ass on the redevelopment. So,
well, they're leaders, and that's the thing. They took the risk too. I mean, they put that money into. It's really fascinating deal, man. They put the money into another company so they can stay on the New York Stock Exchange, but they have the right to acquire them on a triggering event. I'll tell you, we're kind of going all over the place, but I guess it's good. But I just went to Michigan. A company called United Wholesale Mortgage flew our company out there last week, and I have never seen anything like it. They're apparently the number one mortgage broker in the country. 8,000 employees in this facility, and everybody was like loving it, dude. And they have like basketball courts and lunch and free food. And I'm like, and I'm living in Texas. Like, I don't think that, and I would think that Texas could probably have things to compete with maybe everything. It's like, yeah, like you got a big gas station, like here's a Buc-ee's, or you got this, we got everything in Texas and somewhat competitive, but like I don't think we have anything like 1/10 of the size of this mortgage company. But everybody was in the office, everybody was happy. It had this owner was a Michigan State basketball player, and he won the national championship there. And I was just so impressed as a business. But you just never know like what's going on with some of these companies. Like that company you worked at that was real entrepreneurial, and then all of a sudden they're out of business. There was a huge, massive company in Austin that just happened to. But people are just like fighting through. And the same with like I was saying about Bezos and Elon. Like they both had spots where they almost lost the company, but they like just made it through the other side. And then all of a sudden there was like no competition with what they were doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's talk about leadership for a second, because when I had you on my podcast, we didn't talk about this, but you're responsible for a lot of people. How many agents right now?
We have about 140 agents. We have a community called the Entrepreneur Community of about 75 people. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of the scope of the team.
So how do you keep it all together from like a leadership standpoint? Because this is something that I struggle with, is that I'm very like, very, I guess, share some common traits with you that I'm like very entrepreneurial, very like kind of like I'm a person that's just like all over the place and that sort of thing. To be honest with you, I'm not the most organized person. I'm very focused, but I'm not organized. Like, how do you keep it together with all that? Because like our company, I mean, we have like a few employees, a few people that were like responsible for putting food on their table, right? And I know that you guys have agents, you're not necessarily employees, but you're still responsible for putting food on the table by ensuring their success. So how do you keep all that together?
Yeah, I mean, at least for me personally, I don't believe that I believe that I'm a leader in a lot of ways, but I don't believe I'm the type of leader to have like 100 employees or 500 employees. Like, I don't think I would be good at that, or I'm not sure if I'd be capable of it.
Mhm.
We've kind of created this environment where it's kind of what we wanted as real estate agents or entrepreneurs, as we call it. And
Mhm.
so I never really wanted anybody to tell me what to do, and I never really wanted to tell other people what to do on
Mhm.
that sense. And so we've just created an environment that caters to that. I do have partners and people that have different roles, but really it's just kind of getting everybody in their position where they're happy and they love it and they're doing good and you care about them and we just support. Like I don't you know having 130 or 40 real estate agents, they're not the same as employees, right? So
Mhm.
they ultimately have to go out and eat what they kill. And
Mhm.
so I just have to support them and try to motivate them the best I can and lead by example. But you do need people, and that's why I'm a big believer in that. Tongue in cheek, I guess. Like it's not numbers. Like it's people. Real estate is people. The deals come from people. You get deals done with people. You get loans from people. People pay you rent. And the numbers
Mhm.
have to shake out. But I think the two things that I would say maybe somebody finds this valuable, write it down, is real estate's about people, and I also am a big believer that real estate's a team sport, and that you really need a team unless you just
Mhm.
want to have a small portfolio and do all the work. And then it's like, why don't you just go do another job? Because
Mhm.
it's a job. But
Yeah.
if you can get aligned, and I'm a big Trammell Crow guy. I don't know if we talked about that, but Trammell Crow is this. Do you know who that is by chance?
I do not. I'll have to look them up though.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's a book that he has that I read. It's called Trammell Crow Master Developer or Master Builder.
Mhm.
And he was a big developer out of Dallas, Texas. And he started building industrial metal buildings, warehouses, and he really scaled like all over the country. But he had partners. Like he
Mhm.
had a partner in Houston, he had a partner in California. And so he believed in that model of like being aligned and having partners versus having all these employees. And
Yeah.
everyone scaled and grew together. And a lot of the commercial real estate brokerages branched off from Tremel. Like Trammell Crow Companies is around now, but
Mhm.
there's a big history of like all those partners
Mhm.
after he retired or like got out of the business. They went and started, I think, like CBRE and like Cushfield and Wakefield, and like all these
Uh-huh.
brokerages started from that Trammell Crow model.
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of brokerages are kind of built. But I really believe in having partners and being aligned. And you're gonna have bad ones and you're gonna have great ones. And I might have said this before too, but like everyone claims that they've had a bad partnership, but they never claim to be a bad partner themselves, right?
Mhm.
And I say that because like they make mistakes, we make mistakes, but if you're around
Mhm.
people that you can grow and be better and have forgiveness, you can keep doing great things. And that's just life in general. But I'm a big believer in that concept and that mentality. And I try to approach all of our agents as partners. We say, hey, you work with us, not for us. And we
Mhm.
believe that to our core. Like I just met with one of our agents and the doctor I was telling you about, and he's like, this is my boss. And I'm like, I'm not your boss, dude. Like, I guess I'm a broker, I guess, but like, we're the same.
Mhm.
And that doesn't lead for a great person to be running 100 employees, but like
Uh-huh.
we're just lucky that the industry that we're in and the environment that we've created, it kind of fosters that.
Mhm. Now let me ask you this. From an operation standpoint with your company, I'm curious because you have agents, they're independent, independent contractors, that sort of thing. how do the actual operations look like in terms of like, do you have like one person that's responsible for all the operations in terms of like, sending out the commission invoices, like, and like all this other stuff in terms of like, the compliance, the making sure there's like enough coffee and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's three, I guess. Two main ones. Alex is my 50-50 partner. Have I told you about him?
Yeah, yeah, he's coming on my show in a couple weeks actually.
He's a different beast, man. I've known him since he was a kid, and he's just very, very, very sharp, very motivated and disciplined, and crazy background that I'll let him dive into. Even though he never really talks about it, I have to share the story. But dude, the guy's up at 4 a.m. and at the gym and working out, and I mean he keeps it all together. And we have those internal struggles of like, I'm the idea guy, and a lot of things that I think and believe he says no, and I do, and I respect that in a lot of ways. But then I also go and try and figure out another solution with the same goal in mind. I'm like, well, I'm gonna go do it this way, right? For example, like there's these notes that I really like notes, real estate notes, and he's like, don't do that. Like we're not doing that. I'm like, well, then I'll just go do it. And I'm gonna go do it, and then I'll give him half the money I make, right?
Yeah.
But I gotta go figure it out my own way, anyways. And if I lose money, I'll lose all the money myself. But
Yeah.
I'm still just gonna do it,
Mhm.
And I think I think a good partnership has a little bit of that. I feel like, and so there's always a learning curve of like, he's got this very clear, streamlined vision. I'm trying to come in with new ideas and new concepts, and I know that they're needed, but not all of them are needed, and so I have to figure out that balance.
No, absolutely. So with you and Alex, like, how often do you meet? Like, is there something like you get like, you're in a meeting every day at a certain time, or like once a week? Like, tell me about that.
We talk on the phone, nothing scheduled, but we talk probably at least 3 times a day, probably 5. Just quick and efficient, and we're hard on each other in a good way. And there's very few people that I approach like this, but like, not him, but we have another partner that we just added, Robert, my buddy, because Alex is pretty dialed in now, and like we've got it to the point where like I'm bringing in the deals, and then Alex will negotiate them and work them, whereas I used to do both. And then I'd work it to a point, and then he wouldn't like the deal, and then like now I'm like, I'd rather not do that anyways. Like I'll just bring it in, you go work it. If it's good or I need to follow up, let me know.
Yeah.
But like Robert will get on a phone call and little things, but it adds up, and he'll say or like this or that, and I call him out. I'm like, dude, stop saying or stop doing this, and he takes it in a good. He's just like accepts it. And I'm not trying to be rude, and he knows that I'm not, and it's not meant to be a fight. He's like my best friend from growing up, and so he could be like, screw you or talk smack, but like we have a clear goal, and like we're trying to be better, and we don't have much time to waste. And so he gets that. I'm like, you want to talk and like hang out, let's do it, but like let's not do it right now when we're like getting after it in the middle of the day. We have like hundreds of people calling us and hundreds of emails, and I mean, maybe that's to your point a little bit. I mean, like we're hustling, like it's a grind, dude, and we just stay on top of it. And I've gotten more balance as I've had kids, and that's one of the most beautiful things about real estate. It allows us to have that balance. I mean, I'm going to the beach in an hour, and I'm taking the kids, but I've been grinding. I've been at meetings since I started a breakfast meeting at 7, and like, so that's a full day, but it's only 2 or 2:30, and then I'll be working late tonight. But there's no secret about it, and from the outside, it's like we own I would think like $70 million of real estate, but we're not just like making all this money every single month, and like by no means can I go retire. And we just keep pushing the limits and keep bringing more people along and keep building the team the best we can.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, on the thing, that's something that I actually struggle with, and I've gotten a lot better on it since launching my own podcast, because now I'm forced to listen to myself every week, and I almost have to slow down my communication so I don't say it, and I don't say filler words like "so," is one of my favorite filler words. And,
Yeah.
and you like, and that sort of thing. But yeah, no, I mean, and that's the one thing is that I don't have somebody that's actually like, I'm in charge of the marketing and the thought leadership platform that I've developed, that sort of thing for our company. My partner David's in charge of the operations, because if I was in charge of operations, like things would be a freaking 3-ring circus,
Yeah.
absolutely 3-ring circus. And so this is my thing. And I never have somebody like looking over my shoulder being like, hey, you're saying a lot, Matt. Like, you sound like you're not really sure what you're talking about, even though I know that you are. So let's talk about deals that you guys have got in the pipeline. Are you currently raising for anything in particular that our audience should be aware of?
We're getting real close on a few. I am raising for one. I have a note that we're acquiring the note from the lien holder.
Mm-hmm.
The balance is 2.13 on the note. We're buying it for 1.73, so pretty good discount to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's 9% interest only for 2 years, exactly from April 1st. I have $1 million committed to it, and I need to get 720,000, and it'd be just an equal partner as far as percentage that you invest.
Mm-hmm.
Backed by 66 units in Corpus Christi. Appraisal has been done, and it's valued at 3.5. And so it sounds like a great deal, and it is. But it's a 22% IRR, so it's not like a grand slam home run.
Mm-hmm.
You buy it for 1.73, you get $16K a month. Really, it's $15,975, and then in 2 years you get the full balance paid. So I'm trying to get 720,000 together, and then we're getting really close on a retail building, and I just looked at an apartment that I want to pursue. And we're closing that RV park that I was telling you about. We don't actually own it yet. We've raised all the money and we're closing on it next week.
Okay.
But it just, it becomes really fun because now it's like, it's on us to go prove these returns and do a good job and do these investor updates. And then it just snowballs. And then, they talk about it with their friends, and people are excited about these deals. 13 years in the business, and this is the best time that I've ever been in the business to find opportunities. It was pretty hard to find opportunities over the last like 7-10 years. I mean, definitely last like 3 years moving forward. It was just so fast paced, and it was kind of like, hey, here's the price, and I'm like, hey man, I want to buy this deal. I don't know how I'm gonna make money, and you're like, I don't care, figure it out. Now it's like, hey, well, let's talk through it together. On how we're all going to make money. And I'm like, these are great conversations to be having. This is how it should be done.
Yeah, I can't agree more. We were talking about this on my show about the people are actually collaborating together to get each other what each other want. And I remember a couple of years ago, or even last year, we'd walk a deal and there would be a call for offers. It'd be like, the broker would say, yeah, you need to have $100,000 or $200,000 earnest money deposit hard day one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't even figure out if this is going to be a good deal or not until I go through some sort of due diligence to make, give me 10 days, for at least. So, but things have definitely changed. I think things have definitely become more of a healthy, balanced market where both parties can actually make decisions that make sense. Obviously, we've seen what's happened when it doesn't make sense for one party in terms of what we've been seeing as sort of the stress in the multifamily space. But so for our listeners, we have to wrap up in about a minute, Matt, because I actually have a 3:00 show I got to get prepped for. How can people get on your distribution list to know about your deals in the future?
Yeah, very easy. I mean, our website, you can sign up through teifkerealestate.com. Matt Teifke at Gmail is my email. I'm very easy to get a hold of. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. We're everywhere, man. And, just here to be a resource. And once again, man, sorry I'm late. I'm glad you were riffing for a while. And, hopefully somebody found some kind of value here. I always enjoy talking to you. You have a good energy, and let's keep pushing things forward.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to be interviewing your entire family soon, like all your agents, your partner, stuff like that. So, they all come from a good culture stock. So, but listen, man, It was great to see you again, and I'm sure I'll see you in the future. And I'll be sure to also, for those of you listening right now, check out their YouTube channel, because it's like got an entire labyrinth of just gold mines and stuff like that. It's just absolutely insane in terms of the amount of value they get out there just for free with the educational content they have on their YouTube channel. So definitely check that out as well. And we'll look forward to seeing you soon, Matt.
Thank you, man. God bless you guys.